Comics in Motion has joined with Humble Bundle to become a Humble Partner, where our listeners can get some amazing deals on games, digital comics, ebooks, software, and other content. You'll always be giving money to charity, and you'll always be supporting Comics in Motion. New bundles arrive every few weeks, so make sure you follow us on Twitter at Comics in Motion P so you can stay up to date with the greatest deals.
To the Batmobile. Let's go.
Come on, bub, for old time's sake, huh?
Harley Quinn, nice to meet ya.
Pardon my French. Fuck those fuckers.
It's like my favorite Marvel character ever, but you should never meet your heroes because honestly, he's a bit of a dick.
Now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Cat.
I am inevitable. Smash!
Right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Comics in Motion podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Phelps. My co-host and very good friend is Mr. Dave Horrocks.
Hi, Chris, and hello to our listeners out there. Welcome to Comics in Motion TV and movie reviews for shows that are based on comic books. Myself, I'll be reviewing from the perspective of a long-time comic book reader.
And I'll be reviewing for the TV and movie perspective.
And what we also like to do is we also like to spoil the hell out of everything we review. So if you haven't watched our choice of the week, then we'd advise you to proceed with caution. And remember, with an average podcast comes no responsibility. Now, Chris, we often talk about spoiling, don't we? And we do spoil everything. I mean, we want to talk about what we've seen, don't we? But we really don't want to spoil this one. So if you haven't obviously watched what we're going to review this week, then definitely hit the pause button, go watch it, and then come back and we'll talk about it. So, Chris, what are we going to review this week?
We are reviewing, Dave, the rest of Series 2 of The Boys. So we've previously reviewed episode 1 to 3, which was the only episodes that were readily available. And then week by week, Amazon Prime have released one episode. So it's been a long 6 weeks, really, Dave, hasn't it? Because it has just been top notch. But we both, as you just said, it absolutely put it perfectly. We both discussed this before we recorded that we don't want to ruin it for you guys. We really, really don't. And we're going to talk about it because it's just a show that deserves to be watched. And if you want to, listen along with us and then go and watch it, that's your choice. But genuinely, there's so many wow moments that I just think if we talk about it, you're not going to get the same effect that we got when we watched it. Genuinely. So we are telling you, and we're going to put big asterisks on the podcast when it gets released and that. Do not listen to us until you've watched it if you want to get the full Boys experience. If you're not bothered, then by all means, pull up a chair, pull up a brew, and we'll go through it as we normally do. But it is truly unbelievable.
You know the thing about spoilers, Chris? Just as you were talking there, I was thinking we sort of automatically warn people about spoilers. And I'm just thinking to myself, why the fuck would anyone listen to a podcast about The Boys if you haven't watched it?
That's true, Dave.
We sort of do it because kind of, I've been listening to podcasts since about 2009-ish, I think, and everyone sort of does it. Now, obviously, if we're talking about The Boys and then I go and spoil Endgame or something like that, fair enough. That's a bit out of order because I might not have seen that. But if you're talking about the subject, and you haven't watched it, I don't know. It strikes me as odd. I would never actually click on a review for something that I've never actually seen. So yeah,
true.
Dave's musings for the week.
But also, Dave, it brings up a very good point, actually, because why I'm saying that as well is I don't think I've mentioned it on this podcast. I know me and you've talked about it, but I've got back into a show that's on in the UK, and I think it's been circulated around the world now, but called Gogglebox. I'm sure there's an American version and an Aussie version, definitely. And in the UK, it's massive. Now, I watched that from the very first episode, loved it. The whole premise is it's a load of families sat on their TVs watching various different shows, which they're prompted by, obviously, the producers and directors, because one week they might have one clip, they're watching the 9 o'clock breakfast news. The next minute, they're watching something that was on at 11 o'clock at night or on Netflix or whatever. So they're prompted to watch a load of TV. And once they've watched it, they put it into a TV show with these about 6 or 7 different families each week. And me and Sam, Dave, there is a reason behind this story. Me and Sam watched it religiously. But in the age of being able to record stuff and things like that, and you've got that many shows to watch, Gogglebox is current. They look at shows that have happened that week pretty much. Well, what does Sam do, Dave? She records everything. And when they're talking on Gogglebox about something that we've not actually watched, or Sam's not watched more than likely, she fast-forwarded it, Dave, which ruined the whole comedy element of Gogglebox, because we would literally get about 10 minutes of an hour show because you go, oh, no, I've got to fast-forward it. I've not seen that. I've not seen it. And I'd be like, well, that's the fucking point. So this happened to us yesterday. We were watching it from last week because we've been away on holiday and we were catching up on some of our recorded programs. And there's this one, Dave, on Netflix, just going slightly. Have you seen The Murder Next Door?
Nope.
Or The Murder Next Door on Netflix? Holy shit. Anybody out there, just go and watch it. Oh my God. It's in like the top 10 watchable things. It's all real. I don't want to ruin it, but you've got to watch it, Dave. It's just a 1 hour 10, 1 hour 15 documentary as such. Oh, fucking hell. But we were watching that, and that was on Gogglebox. So Sam's going, oh my God. And I'm like, no. She went, but we want to watch this. I went, no. And in the end, Dave, I actually was a hypocrite. And then when it comes to sort of the end, as they were talking about Gogglebox, I went, right, fast forward it. And she went, you've been saying for years. I went, yeah, but this is an exception. So I'm sort of calling myself out for being a hypocrite. But however, the pretense of us doing this, you are right, but sometimes people might stumble across it and not think about it. I do think you're right. 90% of people listening to this have hopefully already watched it, Dave.
So what's it called? Murderer Next Door?
I think it's The Murder Next Door. Honestly, it's, oh my God. I'll actually, I'll find it.
I'm just trying to find it now, but
it's fucking unbelievable. It probably not even that. I'll probably
I can't see it.
Wrong.
Yeah. It's probably called something else, but anyway, try and remember it, and then tell me it. I was just trying to add it.
I've got it.
What is it called? What's it called?
It's close. Fucking dick out. What a great recommendation, Chris. It's called American Murder: The Family Next Door, Dave. So I had most of the words in there, but not in the right order.
Here we go. Right.
You better give me a Dave Horrocks review on this later on.
I've added it to the list now. Yeah. Right.
Oh my God. Anyway, sorry for that tangent, everybody, but amazing.
Now, I will just say, Chris, as well, we have set up a partnership with Humble Bundle. I don't know if you've ever used Humble Bundle. It's easy for me to say, humblebundle.com. But it's one of these sites that basically they do loads of promotions and stuff. And basically you just choose what you're going to pay for stuff. Now, obviously, you can completely take the piss and say, I'll pay a penny for like all these fucking graphic novels or whatever. But, you know, typically they'll give you like suggested prices and different tiers. I haven't used it that much, but I mean, unfortunately, by the time this releases, they'll probably have finished this promotion. But at the moment, they've got The Boys and Project Superpowers, which is another kind of Dynamite title that they did. And I was trying it out, and basically, there's little sliders. So if you go on and buy it, so it's all electronic, by the way. These aren't the floppies. These aren't the actual comics. So they're all like PDFs or whatever format you want to download them in. And there's little sliders, so you can actually adjust how much you're going to pay to, like, there's so much that goes to charity, there's so much that goes to Humble Bundle itself, there's a bit that comes to us, and you can play around with this. So, you know, you can go on there. Honestly, it is a fantastic deal, but you can slide us like right down to zero if you wanted. But if you do actually go on and click on there, it's just another way to help us out here. It just keeps the lights on. It's humblebundle.com / partner equals Comics in Motion. And I'll put a link in the show notes. And, you know, it's just something that we've set up. I'll definitely be buying it. So be handy just for that. Yeah, so it'd be interesting where that goes, Chris. And I do have to say, I've been getting more into the Boys comics. When we reviewed it the first time, I'd only read like the first volume. Absolutely loved it, but there's just too many comics in the world. So it just, you know, I haven't got round to the other volumes. About halfway through volume 3 now. And honestly, Chris, it's fantastic. It is a bit different from the series, to be honest, but the characters are the same. It's just the story and certain plot lines are switched around a little bit.
No, that's good, Dave. And just a point of reference, because I will be actually reading the boy stuff, because you know how much I love this show and the characters. I'm completely invested in it. Humble Bundle are great as well, Dave, for gaming stuff. Now, I know a lot of my friends who are PC gamers and things like that, they'll go on there and get like 20 games for like a tenner or something. You know, they just have these random flash sales, and they're not shit games. A lot of them are AAA, AA games, which means that the premium games that you would buy on, if you're a PC gamer, on Steam. So yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's not just comics and that's it. There's everything for all sorts of like entertainment stuff that you're into. They're really, really good. They've been going for quite a few years, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd kind of heard of them, but I think I paid Chris something like $15 for the whole, for all of the boys stuff, all of the Project Superpowers stuff, and some of the little mini series things as well. It was just phenomenal value, because if you go to like Comixology or somewhere like that, you'd be paying way more than that. And so yeah, chuffed to bits, to be honest, Chris, because I know, all right, it'll take me a while to get through the whole series. There was 75 issues, I think, in the boys, but yeah, definitely I want to make sure that I gorge it all. And like I say, the fact that it is a little bit different, honestly, there's a bit less Homelander, and I'm sure we'll get onto that, because I think that's something the series does a bit better. It gives us a real good villain. But like I say, we get loads of other different characters as well. And what I will say, Chris, is the TV show is a little bit toned down in comparison to the comics. So, it is this classic Garth Ennis stuff. We haven't done any Preacher. We should do that at some point. But yeah, classic Garth Ennis stuff. And yeah, no punches pulled.
Nice, Dave. Nice. Yeah, because if it is a watered-down version on TV, fuck me, I've definitely got to read them then, Dave. I don't read a lot of comics, but I'm going to have to, because I don't know whether this show for me is up there with some of the most gory, gratuitous stuff. Exactly. Gratuitous stuff that I've seen, but not in a bad way, because it just fits in with all the characters. Plenty of people, I can imagine slating it, but all I see online is just people. I saw one dodgy review from somebody, and he shouldn't have done, because it's fucking what the internet's like, but loads of people went after him going, what are you talking about? Did you even watch it? But I've not seen, that's the only negative I've seen for the whole of the Boys 2 series, Dave. Everywhere else, people are just praising it. And that's not just retweets from the official Boys Amazon Twitter account. Yeah. It's a genuine, like, people, just reviewers and everything, and it's so good. It's fucking unbelievable. It really is. You
know who this isn't for, Chris? And I can imagine, I haven't seen any reviews like this, but can you imagine if someone's just flicking through their Amazon account and, they see a picture of Homelander there and they're like, oh, he looks like Christopher Reeve's Superman. Come on, grandkids, let's sit around and watch The Boys.
Especially at the end of the last episode, Dave. Fucking hell. I mean, I never saw Superman giving Lois Lane one day. We were left to that off camera, but yeah, this takes it to a different fucking level. And Dave, let's be honest, if you are, we'll talk about this, but if you are into some freaky shit, I'm sure these videos on Pornhub and that are not far off some of the stuff that Homelander and Stormfront get up to, Dave. I was pissing myself. But anyway, I'll save that before we get into the review.
Now, Chris, should we get into our trailer?
Let's go.
Bertram? What happened? My wife. She's alive. Vault's holding the captive somewhere. And right now, we're in a little bit of trouble. Are you fucking with us? Listen, this is a fucking mess. We're the most wanted lads in the country. We got soup terrorists. And we got no superheroes.
Hi! I'm Stormfront.
Who?
I'm the new girl.
It's your fault.
Oh,
God! So what's your big plan? We'll take them Vought. There we go. And I get my wife back. We're in. Of course we're in.
We blow it up in the air.
More super terrorists will come. For all we know, these maniacs could be waiting for their chance to kill us all.
Who the fuck are you?
I'm just trying to help.
Really? How?
We are in a war, but we can fight back with an army of supermen, millions strong. Now, don't be a pussy. Laser my fucking tits.
1, 2, 3, hit it! She's got a whole army of soups. We cost them too.
We need more soup!
Shit.
All right, what do we do? We can't just kill everyone.
That's exactly what we're gonna do.
Oh, great. Cool. Totally.
1, 2, 3, hit it!
I need some power!
We just need to keep our shit together a little bit longer.
Okay, you guys go ahead. I'm good.
All right. Hands in the air. Like you just don't care. Kill.
Now then, Chris, normally we'll step through the plot, but for the series, we just like to try and pick a few major points. So, I mean, what caught your eye from this? So, again, we talked about the first 3 episodes, hadn't we? And then we've been watching these series on a weekly basis. So, what are the kind of things you want to pick up on? What's your first point?
Well, I think it's sort of a segue of interwoven Stormfront and Homelander. Homelander for me, Dave, and I said this loads, I think he's in the top 2 or 3 bad guys ever. I think Anthony Starr plays him to a fucking T. We do get a bit more of an emotional side to him because of his son. He's more involved than with Stormfront, but Stormfront just completely manipulates him throughout this series, really. And obviously, they end up being a couple, Dave. We said it just before the trailer, but we do get a sex scene pretty much in the 4th episode where she tells Homelander to laser her boobs, Dave. And I'm being polite there. But as part of the foreplay, you know, that's what she wanted. And she said, I can take it. So we do get what everyone's always talked about, and we laughed about it ourselves, but we do get super sex, Dave.
We do. I think we had a few, didn't we? So when she told her, I mean, I think the line was, laser my fucking tits.
I was being polite, but yeah, she does.
Why are you going to start now?
Yeah.
And then we had a bit of a sex scene there. And then in the next episode, you start off straight away. They both caught this fucking robber or something. And he's pleading for them to take him in. And then they just end up like squashing his head and then fucking on the side of the street, and it's just the most grim, gruesome thing, and you're like, fucking hell. I get the impression the showrunner and and the writers and everything are just like, go on, let's push the envelope a bit more, let's see what we can get away with, because at that point, like say, you've got this guy's mushed head into the brickwork there, and then they're shagging. It's just like, fucking hell, this is not a superhero movie. You know, think back, Chris, when we were watching bloody Superman and stuff. Can you imagine fast forward like 30 years or whatever, and then seeing the boys? So yeah, their relationship is fucking very strange, isn't it?
It's weird, and she manipulates him completely, and the play for most of this series is the son. You know, Homelander's constantly going to see Becca at the Vought compound. He then introduces Stormfront to Becca. Obviously, absolutely despises him, but she has no control over it. And I think with the Stormfront stuff as well, as a character, brilliant. She's a great foil for Homelander. She's an absolute bitch. The first episode, we thought she was going to be nice. We'd said it in our original first 3 episodes review. And then from there, she just turned out to be, and I quote, a fucking Nazi bitch, Dave. You know, she's fucking horrible. She was actually married to the original guy who created Vought once. She was his wife and stuff. And then we do get a thing with Homelander where he says, well, who's this, your grandmother? She goes, no, it's my daughter. And then she admits to him that she's like over 100 years old. It's really good, some of the plot stuff with Stormfront. I really like it.
Yeah. Is she 100? I mean, she must be about 100, because if she was around in 1940, I guess, she must have been about 100, mustn't she? So, yeah, I mean, Chris, you've never seen The Misfits, have you?
No.
Honestly, it's on Netflix. I do recommend. Just watch the first episode. It's fucking brilliant. It's just really funny. It's about all these chavs, basically. They've all got their ASBOs, and then they get caught in this electronic storm, and then they get all these superpowers. But loads of other people have as well. And they end up doing this community service at an old people's home. And this Irish guy, he was Klaus in Umbrella Academy.
Oh yeah,
the guy who plays him, and he taps up this girl who's there also, you know, supposedly working at this old people's home, and you know he gets to take her back to her place, and you know she says, well, I'm staying at my grandmother's and what have you, and then they get to, you know, a bit of sexy time, and something happens, you know, when she starts reaching to a climax, and then it sort of flashes back and forth, and then you've got this old lady like writhing on top of him. It's like, whoa. It's like, you're fucking taking the piss out of my cum face. Yours is a shocker. It sort of reminded me of that, you know, what must be going through Homelander's mind. And so it was a bit of a shocker there. And then I guess you've got initially we thought Stormfront, who's a bloke in the comics, by the way, you thought she's kind of this millennial, you know, she's all kind of groovy and stuff, doesn't take well to authority and everything. But yeah, she was playing everyone. And eventually, you know, it's only through, I think A-Train does the old bait and switch, doesn't he? He kind of steals all the evidence that she is an actual Nazi and helps out the boys, essentially. Helps out Starlight and Huey.
Yeah, because she's a racist, isn't she, and stuff. That's one of the. She has a real problem with A-Train, and anybody else, she's just bigoted, isn't she? And you see that with some of the stuff she's saying to the kid as well, isn't she? You know, about this going to be like a genocide and all this. So you've got this whole thing going, aren't you, through the series. It's interesting, the backdrop of it, but also the backdrop as well, Dave. You know, Butch is brilliant, but Homeland, I mean, I know I've just said that, but do you rate Homelander as one of the best baddies? Because I think he's amazing. Yeah,
and I think Anthony Starr's delivery as well is just, it's so fantastic, because I think I said it when we did the first 3 episodes. The way he kind of has that, you know, apparently polite smile, you know, and he smiles for the cameras and everything, and he's all charismatic. Oh, what was the thing? It was in the last episode, wasn't it, where he's doing the school educational video type thing. It's like, if a supervillain attacks the school, what is it? Law? Is it?
Law, yeah. It's something like lock, something like that, isn't it? And it's just
arm yourself. You know, the teacher should have an authorized weapon, and then wait for a hero. You know?
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. It is like the sort of thing we grew up watching, or didn't we? Remember? You ever remember Wellyfant? I don't know if you had it with you. There's a guy.
No, I remember Wordy.
No, Wellyfant. I think it was actually a Trafford thing, actually, or Manchester thing. But Wellyfant was a fire. He was a guy who got dressed up in an elephant suit as a Wellyfant Day. Yeah. And he was like the mascot for the fire service. And he used to come in like twice a year, or if there was a school like fete or, you know, summer fair thing on, and he'd be there, Wellyfant, having his picture, handing out badges about fire safety and all this. And that's what he got.
Nice.
It's a terrible, terrible reference there, because nobody's going to know what the fuck I'm talking about. But yeah, I think he has this thing where he's uncomfortable. What Anthony Starr does is where he flickers his eyes dead, like erratically done, as if to say, and he's smiling through his teeth. He's saying, I'm going to fucking kill all of you. And then there's that scene where he dreams that he kills all the people because they're all going about Compound V, aren't they? All the public. And he comes down to try and make it better in Stormfront. They make it worse. And then we think it's true, but we have the whole flashback of him just lasering every single person and killing him, and then it pans back, doesn't it, that it's just a dream.
Absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. And they'd done this kind of thing before. I went back and I started watching from the first episode in the first season again, and Huey does that, when they're initially trying to get him to sign off some papers, to say that, he's not going to carry out any action against the heroes and what have you. But yeah, when he lasers the crowd again, it's so fucking brutal, and you just see that rage from him. And that's the thing that I think Anthony Starr does really well. And I just think the only thing that I think will stop Homelander from being one of the ultimate all-time villains is that it's just not a PG show. So because it is so, is it even R-rated? Is it 15? Because I think it should be an 18, shouldn't it?
An 18, yeah.
So there's not everyone is going to know him, but he's got to be up there with like Darth Vader, hasn't he? Surely.
Oh, honestly, Dave, I swear to God, I think he's phenomenal. I really do. I just think the menace, and you're right. I think that's a very good point. Nobody's going to know who Homelander is. If you've watched Endgame and you're a 12-year-old kid, you're not going to know who the hell Homelander is, are you? You're going to think of Thanos. And that, for people of like our kids' ages, Dave, Thanos is our Darth Vader, isn't he, really?
Yeah.
We know Darth Vader. And I know Kylo Ren, you could possibly say, but he did sort of redeem himself. But I think Thanos is the one that for kids, they'll be, when they grow older, they'll be like, do you remember Thanos? What a bastard he was. And obviously ours was always Darth Vader for me. Darth Vader was just the ultimate wanker. But when you watch him now, you're like, he wasn't that bad really compared to what we see now. But he was just synonymous, the mask, the breathing. He was Luke's dad, all that. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good point.
Don't forget General Zod. Old Terrence Stamp there, snapping a red crystal for his great indiscretion. So now, one of the things so we always say as well, don't we? You need a good baddie, to really fucking make the good guys shine. Homelander definitely fits the bill there, but fucking Billy Butcher, Chris.
I love him.
Old Dick Van Dyke, Carl Urban there.
I don't give a fuck about his accent. I know Max said, didn't he, Max Bird, our friend who does mandatory Marvel and DC, put in our group going, what, he's fucking Dick Van Dyke? I'm like, whoa, steady now, Max. Don't you dare be slagging Butcher off. I think him and Homelander, for me, are phenomenal. They're like two sides of a coin, Dave. I love them both.
Yeah. But you know what was interesting? When he met his mum and dad, and you obviously see, there's obviously this kind of relationship, isn't there, between him and Huey? Like, he gives him a hard time. I was laughing at I think was it the third episode when he said, I'll get a big family-sized tube of lube or something. And I'll tickle your balls and you'll want me to stop, but I won't stop. So he gives him a hard time, but you can kind of see that Billy Butcher's lost his brother, and his dad is a right fucking piece of work, isn't he? He's a proper shithouse. But then when he meets up with him, and I was convinced, Chris, I thought he was going to throw him off the fucking ledge there. I was just waiting for that. But you can see that, like, his dad's sort of saying, I was a real shit to you, but now look at you. And if I'd have only treated your brother the same, then he'd still be alive. Again, another shit thing to say. But you sort of get the impression that, Billy looks at Huey as kind of this surrogate brother.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And we'd never seen that really, had we, in the first series? It was more, he was an annoyance Huey, wasn't he? He wasn't tough enough. He wasn't Frenchy or anything like that. You know what I mean, Dave? He wasn't like one of the main guys, was he? So he wasn't well, they call him Mother's Milk, don't they? MM.
Yeah.
He wasn't MM. All tough guys, because there is even that bit in the second series where he's going at Huey and then he stands in his way, doesn't he, MM, and says to him, he goes, well, you're not going to get through me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It added layers to his character. We got to meet his auntie, didn't we? We'd met his auntie, then we met his mum and dad. This backstory about his brother, the fact that he likes Huey, and the fact that even Becca calls out Huey and says he's good for you. He reminds me of your brother, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think it adds that bit of realism to Butcher that he needed. In the first series, you could get away with him basically calling everybody a see you next Tuesday at every turn, and I lap that up whenever he say it. I absolutely love it. And we'll get onto that at the end when he says it to the kid. But I do think as a character, you can't have to. And the only thing I'm gutted about, Dave, and I really, really want, is Billy Butcher at some point to have some Compound V and kick the shit out of Homelander. But I just don't think they're ever going to have that showdown.
Well, spoilers for the comics. In the comics, the boys do take Compound V.
Ah, right, okay.
So they, and if you think about it, you kind of have to, because Billy Butcher in the series, he's got a bit of plot armor, hasn't he? You know, he's kind of, you would think Homelander, with the rage that he has, at some point would have just lost it and like fucking wiped the floor with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they do kind of take it in the comics, and at the minute, like I say, about halfway through volume 3, Huey's infiltrating. It's not the 7. You've got all these kind of lesser teams. The 7 are like the superhero team, and then you've got these other ones like the G-Men and Teenage Kicks and things. And he's infiltrated one of those, and they call him Bagpipe. He's Scottish in the in the books, but yeah, so they do take it, and so I wouldn't rule out at some point. I tell you what, Chris, I was not convinced Billy Butcher wouldn't get killed off this season.
That's mad, that.
Well, just because, and again, we're not going to go through every plot point. And again, we said it at the top, but you know, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, go and fucking watch it. It's brilliant. But at the end, that showdown, I thought Homelander might just take him out. And again, it's partially because, well, we know Carl Urban's a fucking superstar, isn't he? He's probably not an A-lister, but he's right up there. So I just wondered, you know, a little bit like Elizabeth Shue, you know, you can get her for one season and then that's it. And that whole scene, the way it played out where, you know, we'd had that showdown, they were trying to steal the kid and what have you. I just thought Homelander might just take him out like he did with the fucking police, and he walks out like he's come out of like his carry or something like that. Absolutely covered in blood, isn't he? But I'm glad he didn't. And like I say, I don't know what is going on with his accent. It's not Cockney. And actually, that was the point I was going to make, that his dad seemed to have the same kind of weird Cockney Australian accent. So
yeah, he did, yeah.
It's like, are they playing on that deliberately? You know, I just don't know. But it's one of those. I'm the same as you, Chris. I kind of forgive it because it just makes him. It makes him that character. The fact that he's got this weird Cockney Australian accent.
No, I totally agree, Dave. I love the fact that it's just the typical generic Australian English accent, Dick Van Dyke special. It's not a true English accent. We say it over and over because we're from the north, and you get the ridiculous accents that the English actors put on in these movies and TV shows. It's so frustrating, but with Butcher being the man, Dave, he can fucking speak however the fuck he wants. If he moves into an Irish accent, I don't give a fuck. I just love that character so much.
Do like a Michael Fassbender thing in X-Men First Class. We're just mutants.
Excuse me, Dave, that's German if you don't mind.
It's mad the way he did that at the end and no one noticed. But I fucking loved the line at the end. I tell you what, I was saying about I thought Billy Butcher might get killed off. When, and again, we'll say it again, but spoilers. So when his wife actually gets killed, and you see the little lad has obviously got a lot of powers. We don't quite know what went on there because it looked like it was just kind of laser vision. But I mean, storefront Stormfront was just fucking decimated, wasn't she? You know, she looks proper like Anakin Skywalker.
I said to you, Anakin, and then we also get the thing where Homeland is saying, well, you know, we've taken her off to a facility. So she's got the thing, she could come back, couldn't she?
I think, I think she could. And you know, you had, what's his face? Black Noir, you know, he got taken out with peanuts, didn't he? But I mean, he's potentially going to come back. I mean, he looked a bit like Deadpool, didn't he? When they whipped the mask off there.
Yeah, he did. To be fair, and he chased Butch earlier in the series with his aunt's house, didn't he? And he was on the roof and everything. So, he was quite a good character.
He was. But what I was going to say is, when the wife died, when fucking Carl Urban looks up at the kid, and you know, we know he's got such disdain for everything superheroes, for the soups, as they say. I thought, is he fucking going to go for him? I just didn't know what was going to happen there, and it was a really sweet moment, because you've got fucking Homelander, he turns up, and you say about, you know, there's a different side to him. I still think he's got that like slight ill tolerance with his son. You know, he's just a bit of a disappointment. I don't think you can beat when he just chucked him off the roof.
That is one of the best scenes in the whole series, isn't it? Like, go on, fly. Oh no, he's not. He's dead. Oh no, he's not dead.
He's never shown anything super at all, you know, but he's that confident. And if he's not a superhero, then fuck him, kind of thing. But yeah, I thought it was really sweet where the kid basically allied himself with Billy. And, you know, fortunately, old Maeve turns up there, doesn't she, with the video? Because, again, you know, he's got 9 lives, Billy Butcher, hasn't he? You know, it's a good job she did that, or else, again, he'd have been a fucking smear on the floor, wouldn't he? But
he would have done, Dave. And just before that, though, Dave, let's talk. For me, there was 2 things in this. The last couple of episodes. The episode 7, we got the whole scene where everyone's head just popped off, didn't they? In the actual in
the courtroom,
and nobody knew what the hell. We were at the end. That guy was about to go against Homelander. The guy who brought him up, he'd been coerced in by Billy Butcher. He blackmailed it, and everyone's head just went fucking pop, 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 and you were like, "What the fuck is this?" Because we'd had no idea. I thought that for a shock factor, the last 2 episodes had 2 cracking shock factor bits, and that for me was just fucking unbelievable. I was sat there like, what the fuck is this? It was amazing, that bit, I must admit.
Yeah, and there was a bit of a misdirection, because there was the kind of FBI type person who they were working with. She was the first person that was in the first episode, I think, wasn't it, where her head popped. And we saw, I think it was Cindy, when we got to the kind of hospital with all the inmates, she absolutely popped the whole body of people around her, didn't she? So I thought it was her, but then the way that just the heads popped, it seemed like a very controlled and targeted thing. But right up until the end, I thought it was it had to be Cindy. But what did you reckon? Oh, sorry, you were going to say, so there was that bit, and then there was a second bit, you said?
Yeah, so there was that, and you're right. And we obviously, it's literally the last scene of the whole series. We get to find out that it's the girl who's running for senator, isn't it, Dave? Yeah. She's the one. She's the one who she has to look at them, and we don't know that, but we think she's against this Vought and everything, but she's obviously part of Vought, isn't she, or something, because she's a soup. So we get that. And then Huey ends up going to ask her for a bloody job from nowhere, saying he wants to do something, blah, 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 which is great. But Dave, the best moment for me personally, I'm saying these 2 more bits that got me. I was like, yes. And one of them I was yes. And one of them like, holy shit. Let's talk about the holy shit bit, Dave, because this is my second favourite moment in the whole series. After all this transpires and Homelander gets blackmailed by Queen Maeve, he decides to then get on top of a building and pull one off, Dave. Now, I was expecting the sperm of a fucking. And you said this to me when we were talking. I'm nicking it off you, but you said I thought he was going to knock a building over or something with his super sperm. I thought someone was going to end up getting killed by his. But he's basically wanking on top of a building, pants down, going, "I can do whatever I want." And I'd said to you, I'd read someone on Twitter thinking it was part of the comics. I said to you, and it wasn't. It's a scene that's from the second episode of the first series that they actually took out, because they weren't sure it fit. And I'm thinking, well, everything else fits, but they put it in, and everyone online's going mad at it, because that is fucking outstanding.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Because you kind of, you can see what's happening when the camera's close in on his face. You know what's happening. You can hear it as well, can't you?
Yeah,
you know what's going on there.
We've all been there, Dave.
When it kind of shows him from the back and he's on top of the fucking building beating away, you're like, fucking hell, how can they show this? It's just brilliant. And like you say, I was fucking expecting, something to get knocked over, or can you imagine if someone got fucking shot?
Oh my God, literally.
Fucking death by cum shot.
Oh my God, that's what you call a money shot, though. Yeah, it was honestly, and I know, like you've said it loads, Dave, and I've said it. You've got to watch it, and if you haven't watched it, my God, are we spoiling it for you? But gee, it's unbelievable. But just moving on from that section, Dave, as well. That was literally just before we found out about the girl who was taking everyone's heads off. But it's for me right now. Now let me give you a little bit of a backstory. I watched Endgame on the way over to Greece. I've just been away to Greece on the plane. It was a 4-hour flight. I downloaded Endgame again. That film, for me, is my favourite, probably, I'd say comic book movie, superhero movie, Dave. I think it's better than Superman 2. As much as I love Superman 2 for the nostalgia and everything, Endgame is just the best. I absolutely love the emotional journey it takes you on. You're there with lumps in your throat even now. There's loads of like fist pumping moments where they get over Thanos, and I love that movie so much. However, there's a scene in the end of this on the last episode of The Boys, episode 8. For me, this pisses all over Endgame's comparable scene. And the scene is in Endgame where we got this whole woman team up thing with Captain Marvel, don't we? Peter Parker's got Thanos, he's got the rings and everything, the stones, it's the Infinity Stones. And Captain Marvel comes down and goes, "Hey, Peter Parker," and takes it off him. And he's like, "How are you going to get through them?" And all the girls line up, all the women and everything. And they're all like, she's got help. And we get this big chasm of the women together, and they just go at Thanos' army. And it's great. It's a great scene. I'm not shitting on it. However, Dave, I think this Boys scene so we've got Stormfront's fighting against Starlight and Kimiko. And obviously they're both supes, but Stormfront's a little bit more powerful. And you've got Frenchie and MM trying to back her up with the guns, and Huey, and who just get absolutely decimated. She's like, "Why are you even bothering shooting us?" And they start fighting her, and obviously Stormfront starts getting the better of him. She snaps Kimiko's neck, and the next minute, Dave, you just hear Queen Maeve. You don't want to say, and it goes, "Hey, Kraut." And they kick the shit out of it, Dave. I mean, the music's on point. They fucking lever her. And I genuinely, Dave, was like, this is what Endgame should have had, something like this. Because honestly, Dave, I think that scene is better than Endgame for me. He's brilliant. Absolutely. I went back and watched it 3 times since I've watched that, since I've finished it. I just love that scene.
I agree. I think for girls getting it done, because that was a theme in the first few episodes, wasn't it? Where it was all played up, where you had basically 3 women on the 7. But in Endgame, I think it was really forced, wasn't it? Because you just don't forget when they filmed all of that. All the Me Too movement and everything was still fairly fresh, wasn't it? And you were still getting things coming out and everything. And then people are wising up and they're going, hang about, Marvel. You've had 20-odd movies, and all of the, individual movies are all fronted by blokes. You had Ant-Man and Wasp. That's where you kind of had you had a female in, sort of in the as a lead character. But, even that was a joint thing. So, and then you had Captain Marvel on DC, you've got the Wonder Woman stuff as well, but it's still way over into, there's still a huge imbalance, isn't there? And so the fact that they put in that scene where it's just, in this chaotic battle in Endgame, and then just all of a sudden you get this cinematic shot of all the girls all together. You've got bloody Captain Marvel, but then you've got, is it Akori? Or I can never remember her name from Black Panther, the one out of Walking Dead. Who's basically just a great warrior, but has got no superpowers or anything. But it's just all the women just all lined up together. It was forced as fuck for me, that. And it just really jars with me, and I love the film as well, but it just jars with me as just like, oh, let's put it in, again.
It's a box tick-in exercise, Dave,
I think so.
And that's not me and you being male sexist or anything like that. I totally agree, because, my Captain Marvel's a good movie in that. I just think it was completely forced. Why do that? You should have done that a long time ago. There's a lot of strong female characters. I mean, hell, Dave, Black Widow's one of the main people in Avengers Endgame, especially at the start, and her whole journey. So we've got the movie coming out soon. So it's just, I agree. I completely agree.
The thing I'd say is, they should have done it a long time ago. The thing, you can never change the past, though, can you? So no. even if someone pointed it out to them and said, look, all your films are blokes, you've got to at least censor. I just think it was ham-fisted the way they did it. The way it was just that one cinematic shot, it almost smacked of like an aftershoot type of thing, and it wasn't organic. And the whole reason to go on about it is this felt organic. And not only that, I thought it was a brilliant arc for Queen Maeve as well. So where she's kind of come from, and, she's had this lesbian relationship, and, she's wanted to keep it quiet from Homelander, and then she got outed, but then, her partner's split up with her as well. She just can't handle it. She certainly can't handle what happened on the plane. And, she ends up, commiserating herself. She's saying to the PR lady, isn't she, just for once in your life, can you just be a fucking human being? And then when Starlight goes to her for some help, because she's like, you're the only person, because Starlight's, she's been called out as a traitor at this time, so she's got no credibility. Queen Maeve turns her down. She's like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. So, for that moment, for Queen Maeve to turn up, Chris, it was just fucking brilliant. And what better line than "Hey Kraut,"
and then China.
Because still, in my lifetime, Chris, there are no better villains than the Nazis, are there? They're just. I don't think there ever will be. All the things. Even you could say the evil empire in Star Wars. It's all just based off Nazis, isn't it? So, yeah, no, I agree. It was fucking brilliant. And in terms of just an individual scene, in terms of giving the girls a bit of the spotlight, that was far better than Endgame.
It was just like you say, you hit the nail on the head. It was organic. It felt it was right, because the boys are going to do nothing. Kimiko and Starlight, who's obviously came sort of like a bit of a substitute boys member, didn't she, towards the end, because she lost the chip and all that stuff, and she had to go on the run. Without a doubt. And honestly, that for me, Dave, just absolutely put the full stop on the whole series, because I genuinely can't find anything wrong with this series at all. I actually think it's probably stronger than the first one, and there was nothing wrong with the first one. The first one was outstanding. So I just think it's getting better and better for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just consistently really good. Speaking of the first one, though, so I mentioned I've gone back. I just need more Boys Fix, Chris. I've fucking bought the comics digitally, as I mentioned, on Humble Bundle. Listen to you can get the first volume on audiobook as well, so you can get that across on Audible. Been listening to that and gone back to the first series, so absolutely immersing myself in the boys' world at the minute. Lamplighter. So he's actually, I'd kind of forgotten in the first series, but Lamplighter is the character that obviously Starlight replaces in the first episode. You know, it's only because Lamplighter Lamplighter has left the Seven that there's this open spot, and so the fact that in the it's not a mental hospital, is it? It's kind of made out to be one, but you know, you've got all these kind of superpowered individuals, and you've got Lamplighter working as kind of a lackey there, haven't you? I thought it was really interesting to just tie it all back to that first episode. And obviously they've got Iceman, haven't they? They've got Iceman from the X-Men playing with Pyro's powers. You know, he's got the whole can't make his own fire, so he has to have a little lighter there. I thought that was an interesting twist.
It was, to be fair, Dave. And he's someone who was in a game that's just been out. It's a bit Quantum Break, I think it was called, on the Xbox. He was the main character in it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting one. But he was Jimmy Olsen, Dave, in the Smallville. He's got a twin brother who acts, so there's two of them there.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I remember him in Smallville. But yeah, great little cameo, I think, to be honest, because he was quite important towards the end of the series. One, he obviously ended up meeting his doom, but you could tell he was not going to be a redeemable character.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it sort of tied back. You know, you got the whole thing with Frenchie. You know, because again, I'd kind of forgotten, but Frenchie and Mother's Milk just wouldn't kind of speak to each other. You know, and it's all to do with Frenchie just abandoning his post. You know, so it meant that Mallory's kids got killed. You know, again, Lamplighter wasn't supposed. The kids weren't supposed to be there. He was supposed to kill Mallory, and so it all kind of neatly tied it all back. And I just thought that was quite clever. Again, just I like it when it feels like just a continuation of a story. You don't know everything, but obviously,
yes.
So when I'm going back, I'm looking at the first season again now. I'm just picking up on so much more of what's gone on. And it's Shawn Ashmore, isn't it? I was trying to think, what bloody hell is his name? So it's Shawn Ashmore is Bobby Drake in the original X-Men.
No, it's good, Dave. It's really good. So, Dave, should we go into our review?
Let's go.
I think this is going to be the most, continuity-wise, the most boring scores we're going to give Dave, because we have not hit ourselves well at all. There's not going to be a Chris heel turn on this. I'll go first, Dave. I absolutely love The Boys. I think even now it's overtook Daredevil. I love Daredevil. I hold it up there as one of my favourite comic book TV shows ever. I absolutely love everything about it. But this, for me, this is like if you sat there pissed up or you were stoned and you went, can you imagine, like we've said ourselves, we've talked about this and off the podcast as well. Can you imagine if Superman had sex with Lois Lane? He'd kill her, wouldn't he? You know, and all that sort of thing. And this
you mean like Brody's conversation in Mallrats?
I don't want to talk about Mallrats, Dave, at all. But we have had this discussion. Anyway, let's not talk about that pile of shit, Dave, because...
But that's what he's talking about. He's saying she wouldn't be able to hold his super sperm.
I don't want to talk about that movie, Dave, at all. You put me on a downer now. That is a disgrace of a movie. Anyway, if you want to listen to me just absolutely rant about that, get over to the VHS Strikes Back, because I forgot about that, Dave. I had a lovely week away. And now, I realise why I went away hating you, Dave. But anyway... only a little. But anyway, this is the best thing ever. I think it does loads of things that's subconsciously, as a superhero fan, you would think about. Like you just said, you're right, Dave, Mallrats, Joel joking aside, exactly what he says. It wouldn't work. In Smallville, he did it with Lois, where she ended up with superpowers and her and Clark could have sex at one point towards the end of like the run on Smallville. Let's not go down that route, Dave, because I love Smallville, but there was a few leaps towards the end of the writing. But again, it's just everything that you think about a superhero in real life, not this like Superman slick back hair, you know, I don't do this, I don't do that. They do all of it, and it's brilliant. And the violence, Homelander, Butcher, two of my favourite characters, love them. But I also think like Frenchie, MM were brilliant this series. Mallory was quite good, and she was like the mentor once. She was their boss originally.
Yeah.
And Huey was great with Starlight. The whole love thing and everything was there in the background. So I just think, and I wasn't a massive fan of Starlight in the first series as such, but in this one, I really took to her. I thought Annie was great in it, and I thought she was a really good character. And at the end, she redeemed herself by going for it with Stormfront. And again, Stormfront, Dave, another good baddie. They really know how to knock this out of the park. So all day long, Dave, it's gone to Asgard, and it's going right at the top of Asgard with Captain America and the Hammer and Thor, Dave, because I think it is one of the best things we reviewed up there with Endgame. I love it.
Very good. I'm not sure I can top that, but again, it's probably going to be it's probably going to be quite dull. So yeah, this is possibly the best series that I've seen. We've seen some good ones, haven't we? I think Doom Patrol was great. Really liked Umbrella Academy as well, although second season not quite as much. Daredevil, the first and the third series that you mentioned, I need to go back and watch them again at some point. But this one, I think for having such a different take, and I tell you, because it's quite different from the comics as well, you get to enjoy this world, or a slightly different version of this world with a different story. So if you go to the comics or you're watching the TV series, in the TV series, I just don't really know what's going to happen. Poor exemplar, Chris. Love Sausage is the character that we saw a little bit in the hospital, right? Can you guess which one he is?
Well, it's not taken off mine, Dave, anyway, but yeah, go on.
So, of course, Mother's Milk, he gets sort of, not strangled, but it sort of wraps around his neck. And he's like, what the hell was that? But in the comics, he's like a good guy. And he sort of helps him out and stuff as well. And, he has this very tight and revealing red Russian outfit on. And, so lots of stuff to explore in the comics as well. So I like the fact that these little nods to the comics, there's these certain characters, but they take these liberties and just, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that, they're telling a slightly different story. Like I say, in the comics as well, they're all taking Compound V so they can go toe to toe with the Supes. Here, they're just going off their kind of wits and their guile. And no, absolutely love it, Chris. The way it looks. You mentioned about the music when the girls kind of team up there. I can't even think what the music was in that scene now. If I'm to really nitpick, I don't know if there was any particular iconic music. But then, having said that, when I watched Avengers Assemble for the first time, I don't particularly remember the music out of that from then. Watching it in 2012. Now, If I hear the Avengers music, fucking hairs on my arms are standing up and everything as well. So I think some of these kind of scores, they're a little bit... They grow on you, and then you kind of subconsciously associate them with the movie, so that it evokes that emotion in you. Possibly, because I can't remember when was the first time I watched Back to the Future or first time I watched Star Wars. I can't remember if the very first time I watched it. So did I think then, oh, the music's really great? Probably not. Probably wasn't even thinking about it. So yeah, the music, not so sure about that, but it might just grow on me. But everything else, yeah, the characters. I think I said this for the first season, which is again, sorry guys, this is why it's possibly a bit boring, but the fact that they make us care about all these characters, either in a positive way or a negative way. Stormfront, in the first few episodes, she was like, oh yes, brilliant millennial, she just doesn't take any shit, takes piss out of everyone. No, she's a 100-year-old Nazi, for fuck's sake. Fucking, in the first few episodes where you get bloody little cameo from Elizabeth Shue from the old Shape Changer, who I'd forgotten was also in the first series. And, it's just showing just what a complete headfuck Homelander is and what an ultimate fucking dangerous fucking psychopath he is. So, yeah, Chris, just everything about it is just fantastic. I'll be watching it again. Like I say, I'm making my way through the first season again now. I'll carry on going to the end of the second season. Enjoy all the comics as well, and just, yeah, absolutely love it. So straight to Asgard, and not only the stuff that you mentioned, Chris, but I'm also going to say it's fucking Galactus in Asgard. And I don't mean a fluffy cloud like it was in Fantastic Four Silver Surfer. The motherfucking big Galactus, and he's going to be right there.
Good work, Dave. You've just topped me there.
I was waffling just to think, how can I get bigger than like fucking Thor's hammer and Captain America's shield, and you know.
Sorry, Dave. I had to go big. You've done me there. So, if you want to contact us, guys, at Comics in Motion P on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to email us, the comicsinmotionpodcast@gmail.com. And if you get on there on our channel, we've got plenty of great shows. We've got like some cracking ones. If you're into Star Wars or you're into the proper blockbuster Marvel, DC stuff, there's all sorts of stuff that'll tickle your fancy, not just what me and Dave do. So, yeah, cracker there, Dave. And I'm so glad we've covered this, mate, because I've been itching to talk to you about it. I've absolutely loved it. So, absolutely brilliant.
Awesome, mate. So, if someone wants to get in contact with us, how do they get in contact with us?
I've just done all that, Dave, and you obviously
I was
Dave.
just reading my emails.
You've done it, me, because you know when we did the I'm going to forget to tell you this, but you know we did the VHS the other day. You do all the plugs for everything, the Patreon.
I know you've done that twice, haven't you?
I did it again.
I do all the Patreon stuff, and you're like, yeah. So if you want to get support us with Patreon, and
so I wasn't listening to you then, and you were listening to me. So we'll call that one off.
Hey, what was Billy Butcher's last bit of advice that he gave to the lad?
Don't be a fucking. I've not been practicing that, Dave.
The kid had quite a low, gruff voice there, didn't he?
He did well there, didn't he? Yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah, he did, yeah. Anyway.
The kid's got his Billy Butcher accent right down there, and he. Right. Well, Chris, in that case, I'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Tell Xavier, go fuck yourself.
What in the ass?
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? What? I always ask that of all my prey. I just like the sound.
Let's not stand on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne.
Would you care to step outside?
Come to me, son of Jor-El! Kneel before Zod!
Why so serious? Let's put a smile on that face.
I am Iron Man.
I'm Batman.
Whoa!
Hey!
This week, Comics in Motion has an excellent offer exclusively for our listeners. TKO Comics is revolutionizing the comic industry. They have creator-owned series from heavy hitters like Garth Ennis, Jeff Lemire, Joshua Dessart, Roxane Gay, and many more. If you go to tkopresents.com/discount/motion20 and use the code MOTION20 at checkout, you'll receive a 20% discount exclusively for Comics in Motion listeners. That's tkopresent.com/discount/motion20 and use the promo code MOTION20. Happy reading.